So this gun's here for misfires, and then there's a price limit on it for me. So what are some of the things that cause misfires? Yeah, broken missing firing pin, insufficient protrusion, insufficient striker energy, headspace, lots of those kind of things. Here's our cocking piece. It's attached to the striker. Sits up here. When we close the bolt, rotates over, and it's held cocked here. We pull the trigger, this flies forward to this position. That's our striker down inside there. So we need that striker inside the bolt to hit here and push this further forward. Instead of hitting way up here on the edge, almost missing it, you bend the firing pin tip so it hits on the rim where it's supposed to. So I don't know about you guys, but that looks like a good hit to me. It's down in the rim. It's not out here on the outside edge.
Hi, and welcome to Over the Gunsmith's Shoulder. I'm Gene Kelly, president of the American Gunsmithing Institute. And in this segment, Master Gunsmith Ken Brooks is going to walk you step by step through a gunsmithing repair. You're going to learn a lot. And if you'd like to learn to be a certified professional gunsmith, then go to AmericanGunsmithingInstitute.com and request an information package. Now let's learn from Ken.
Welcome back to another Over My Shoulder. Today we got a beat up old Remington 581. I say beat up because you can just see that there's not much finish left on it. Even got some rust pits in there, and somebody has polished off all the original blue. So this gun's here for misfires, and then there's a price limit on it for me. So we're going to dive into it, tear it apart here in a minute. So what are some of the things that cause misfires? Yeah, broken missing firing pin, insufficient protrusion, insufficient striker energy, headspace, lots of those kind of things. This could be headspace. I'm going to show you that it is empty real quick. The bolt goes forward. I'm going to say that for the most part, not on this one, because look at the massive locking lugs on this guy. Yeah, 22 long rifle, and yeah, if it set these lugs back, it's because somebody's been monkeying around. Again, I don't think it's headspace, so we're not going to dive into the looking at it for headspace right off the bat. So what do we got going on? We have a fairly small firing pin, and I'm going to actually uncock this. So our rear striker pushes our firing pin forward. So firing pin lives in this groove right along the top of the bolt, and you can see that right here is the tip of it, and then it steps down. Turn that around. Roughly, what's our protrusion? So I kind of like more. The first time I did that, I got 25. It didn't look right, so that's the reason I did it a second time. I do it multiple times anyhow. There's another time. So there I'm 28. And again, this is just a rough, it's not a super accurate, 29. So I'm in that 28, 29, 30 thousandths protrusion realm. So misfire, I'm going to want, closer to 35. It appears, so I believe in this view you can, again, firing pin protrudes, and you can see the brass wash and where the wear and tear from the shells recoiling against the breech face are. So that point is right about where it ought to be in the rim. So I think what we need to do is just give it a little bit more protrusion. The customer didn't tell me if it misfires all the time or just some of the time or what. He really didn't say. But I'm going to push this back. Yeah, see, we're fairly snug there. All right. Well, the extractor collar spring is what retains that guy. So let's see if we can get that off of there without breaking things. So what I'm trying to do is get my dental pick up underneath that spring, and then I kept my finger over it so it wouldn't simply launch into outer space. Now be aware of the extractors. are probably going to fall out. You know what? They don't seem to want to come out. I'm not going to worry about it. So we got a couple things going on. I didn't think I was going to have to take this front half off the back half, but it looks like I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm just going to drive out that pin. All right, so I need to be able to work where you guys can see this. So that's the reason I'm going to lean that gun up. I thought that firing pin was going to slide all the way out the front, but it doesn't appear to want to. So let's see if we can work on getting it out the back. What I'm doing here is you can see that somebody's hit the top of the bolt multiple times. Well, if they pinch that in, and some guns, there's a notch in the firing pin and they actually do that to retain the firing pin in the bolt. This one's not supposed to be that way. So I'm just making sure that the firing pin doesn't drag on that, because that means it would be slowed down as it was being thrown forward and not strike the primer with enough force. I don't like it, so I am going to try to find a thin file, not that one, that will reach down in there and smooth out those hard spots. And most of the time I do this in the Vise. It's just quicker and easier while we're filming for me to do it right here. My hands-on class students will know that, well, you always tell us never to do it right there at the bench. It's not that you can't do it at the bench, it's just you get a lot more control at the Vise. So again, what I'm doing is just simply removing those bird areas at the top there. So they don't slow down the firing pin. And now I'm using a pipe cleaner to just clean that up a bit. Oh yeah, look at that. Cool. Now the next thing I'm going to do is make sure that the firing pin is fairly straight. Appears to be. It's got some crud on there. So take some steel wool. I'll just take off any of that roughness. Again, we want it to slide easy. And there is some gunk on there. All right, whoop, wrong way. All right, so here's our cocking piece. It's attached to the striker. Sits up here. When we close the bolt, rotates over, and it's held cocked here. We pull the trigger, this flies forward to this position. That's our striker down inside there. So we need that striker inside the bolt to hit here and push this further forward. The further forward it goes, the further it protrudes here. So I'm going to shave a little bit of material off the back here. And then I'm going to go ahead and relieve this material right here on the firing pin. Not the tip, not down here, just right here. So I'm going to do that actually right now in the Vise. So we'll get set up in the Vise and go from there. All right, so here's our firing pin. Got the tip right here, and I just need to relieve this back area just a little bit. You can see it's got a little flex there, so I got to be careful. I don't want to bend it. And I don't need to take off a ton. Remember, I'm only trying to increase protrusion by a couple thousandths. Now, what I will do too is, now that I've taken that off, is I will break that edge on that side, flip it over and break the edge on this side. Again, I'm not hitting the tip, not adjusting the tip that's going to strike the primer, because this is fairly small. So I don't want to alter that. One other thing, I'm going to bring this over here and talk to you guys about it real quick, is, and I don't know, for whatever reason lately I've had a couple 22s come in to where the groove in the bolt where the firing pin rides wasn't deep enough. So the firing pin couldn't hit, but just almost the outside edge of the rim. So it's pretty simple. You take a cutoff disc, and I know I'm not doing it to this one necessarily, but you go in here and you deepen that groove, at least the first half, or the front half. Then you bend your firing pin. I wish I had one here to do. You bend your firing pin tip down. So now the firing pin can hit, instead of hitting way up here on the edge, almost missing it, you bend the firing pin tip so it hits on the rim where it's supposed to. Again, I know that's not one we really have. I just wanted to mention that that is something that can occur and to be aware of. So after I get this put back together, we try to dry fire a couple. That's what these are, just primed cases. We'll see where the firing pin hits, how it looks, and I may have to do it to this one. I don't know. So the only other thing I want to do is grind some off the back of this. So let's go do that. All right, so here's what's going on. We're going to shorten the back of this. We don't need to shorten it a ton. That striker hits the back here and pushes the firing pin forward. Could we chuck this up in a lathe? Yeah. You know, may have to use a 4-jaw chuck type of deal. It's an inexpensive 22. You know, we're not committing brain surgery. We're not putting a man on Mars. You know, we're shortening this up. So I'm going to use the 1-inch belt. If you guys feel more comfortable in your shop, chucking it up and milling it off, or putting it in a lathe and dialing it all in, all well and good. But you know, time is money. I'm going to do this short, quick, and easy. Okay, so you saw me do it several times. First off, I don't have a real coarse, you know, grinding, sanding belt on here. Oh, had a hard time getting that out. Not a coarse belt on my sander. So, and then you saw me look several times. So the first time I was hitting up here where the firing pin is. All well and good, but I do want it to be as even as possible, you know, doing it this method. So then I leaned into it a little bit more, and I had one side that wasn't. So I wasn't cutting as much off on one side, so I went in again. So fairly even. Going to go back, put it back together. We're going to test fire it and see what we get. Okay, so I've shortened it up here at the back. One thing I do like to do is go in and, again, try to break each sharp edge on here, the bottom and both sides. Where I was sanding on that 1-inch belt can raise a bit of a burr. Use this one, and sometimes gonna go back to that one. Again, just breaking that edge. I want to use my pipe cleaner. Seems like I lost my other one. Anyway, to clean that out. Don't want any grit in there. And one thing I didn't show is right after we left the vise, right before I walked over to the 1-inch belt, is I did pull the extractors out. And I'm going to show you. They're covered in rust. I don't know if that's rust from what they were, you know, the gun rusted and then they tried to fix it, or if they had one of those, let's remove the bluing, you know, mixtures that they put on here and didn't pull the extractors out. So I'm just brushing those off just real quick. And let's slap those back in here. Left extractor goes on the left side. Right extractor in the right side. Firing pin back in. good. Good. Fairly free, and it was a little gummed up previously. Okay, now I also have to put on the extractor spring / firing pin retainer, but you got to make sure that the firing pin stays in. Now that I've loosened it up, it wants to just flop around and fall out. And on these, I seem to always have difficulty I can get it over one, but then I always have difficulty getting it over the other. I need a nice sharp one of these to stick in my finger, which I'm really hoping I don't do. Come on now. Oh, see that? Almost stuck it in my finger. So I got to tell you, not a fan of these kind of extractor retainers. Okay. And I wasn't thinking ahead far enough, but yeah, now that I've freed up the firing pin, I don't even need it to be in there. Now it needs to be in there so I can slide this on here and put our little retaining guy back in place. Sorry, every once in a while I got to get up close, and I know it moves out of the camera. Not trying to hide anything from you guys, just it is what it is. So the firing pin's all the way forward there. The striker cocking piece is in the forward position, and that sure looks like that's sticking forward a long ways. So let's double check that. There we go. Yeah, about 35. So let's, oh, my grip's I'm getting old. All right, so I'm not going to show you this, but I'm going to clamp this in the vise so I can cock the stupid thing. I can keep talking to you while I do it. There we go. What I did is I clamped the cocking piece in the vise and then rotated the bull handle so it would open. All well and good. Because now what I want to do is we're going to put it in the gun and check it. Once we get this going, or once I am happy that it's working here at the bench, I will test fire this with live rounds at the range. Right now, I have 2 primed cases. So basically what I did is I just pulled the bullet and then dumped the powder out. Fun fact, Bob used to grab these in his teeth, the bullet in his teeth, and twist it and pull it out. Yeah, I'm not sure that's great on your teeth, and then it's lead in your mouth. And Bob had lead poisoning, and we all know how that worked out. Not the best. You don't want lead in your mouth, in your body. So I always use a vise. All right, so let's put that in there. Again, I was showing you that those were primed rounds, not live rounds. So hopefully this will go pop. I heard it. The cameraman's nodding his head. Open this up, kick it out. So I don't know about you guys, but that looks like a good hit to me. It's down in the rim. It's not out here on the outside edge. It's right where that priming compound is. Good, solid hit. I'm going to do one more. This is the same brand of ammunition. Actually, I got this from a customer, and the tolerances suck. It's not very good ammo. He had a ton of, actually this one's not going to go because the case is all screwed up, looks like. Yeah, that one's not going to work. So what I will do is I will pull a different one. This is a different brand. Basically, I pulled a bullet, and there's the bullet, and there's the gunpowder. We'll put this inside the chamber. There you can see primed case. Close that. Another pop. And yeah, so, nope, that's not the one I wanted to look at. One is a Winchester and one is a Remington. Good solid hits on both of them, which I expected, because again, we adjusted that firing pin. We freed it up, so it was free to travel in there, cleaned off all the crud that was on it, so it wasn't gummed up. Deburred that bolt, freed that up, shortened the back of the front of the bolt, so the striker can push the firing pin further forward. We adjusted the front, so just the tip would continue forward, and the relief cut on the firing pin would allow it to go further forward. I will test fire this with live ammunition. I will try several different brands because I want to make sure it's going to work before I give it back to the customer. And popping them here at the bench, I do this a lot, but it helps me to see what am I looking for? Where is the firing pin hitting? Am I getting a good indent? Is it a light indent? What's going on? So I can do this here at the bench safely, and then take it to the range and try our different live rounds, and see what the final is, because live rounds do handle a little different than just popping these. But often this will tell you exactly what's going on. Oh, hey, the firing pin doesn't hit the rim of the cartridge where the priming compound is. It's hitting on the outside edge, or it's hitting too close to the center of the case, or it's extra wide, or it's way too thin. You don't want a knife edge digging into this, but you also don't want a 1/4 of an inch, firing pin. So this one has good solid hits, and I'm not trying to be redundant. I just am trying to cover all our bases, explain to you what's going on, why we did it. I don't think there's a headspace issue. If there is a headspace issue, that will show up at the range, because the live rounds will detonate and then expand in the chamber, and so the case heads can puff up a little bit, whereas you would not get that from an unprimed round like we have here. All right, we're going to wrap this up. I'm going to go home and get something to eat, and we will see you guys on a different month.
If you want to learn real gunsmithing and see more videos like this, be sure and like and subscribe so you don't miss out. If you're interested in training to be a real gunsmith, go check out the American Gunsmithing Institute.com, or for your own firearms training, AmericanGunsmith.com.